Hello YouTube, this is Adam Brannon and Movie Metropolis Play. I'm here with Rob Stoakes.
Hello.
And we're hoping to bring you the first of many videos about films throughout the new year into 2016. So the first one, we're going to be looking at our favourite films of the year. It's been a good year, hasn't it, Rob? Really?
It's been, I would say, a much better year than 2014.
I think it's been one of the best in recent memory, definitely. There's been some fantastic films, most
I
definitely.
think, there were some fantastic films in the years before, but there weren't as many. And I would say, kind of the worst films of this year, most of them have just been kind of boring.
Typical Hollywood fare. Definitely, I'm quite impressed. There's so many DVDs as well that I would like this year, so I'll be getting into the January sales most definitely.
Yeah, and it's also building to what looks to be quite a good year as well. But I believe we'll be getting to that later on.
Definitely, most definitely. Our top films of 2016 to look forward to, that'll be coming later on as well.
Yeah.
So we'll start with our number 5 for this year. My number 5 is Kingsman: The Secret Service. Matthew Vaughn directed, obviously, X-Men First Class, moved on to Kingsman. Fantastic film. Colin Firth, fantastic cast. What did you make of that one?
I thought it was a really good film. It's in my honourable mentions, not for any problems with the film itself, but more just because there were that many that I could pick in. But for a long time, for me, this was the film to beat.
Spoilers ahead, but that church scene was...
very good, very well shot.
Very good.
Very well acted. Had a lot of interesting themes, and I think it managed to be an homage to classic James Bond, but definitely. It wasn't an overt parody. You didn't need to know the Bond franchise inside out to get it, but it was a very fun film. It was very much in tone with Kick-Ass. Which was his other film.
Yeah. And much better than Kick-Ass 2 as well.
Yeah, Kick-Ass 2 lost a lot of that funny edge and was just kind of dark, whereas Kick-Ass had a very dark tone, but it was very funny. And Kingsman
matched that, I think.
Yeah.
And Samuel L. Jackson as well, fantastic, overly camp villain, worked perfectly with the tone of the film. I think Matthew Vaughn was onto a winner with that. Yeah. It's a shame the box office totals didn't set the world alight, but it was still good, and there is supposed to be a sequel coming very soon, so hopefully that'll do quite well.
Hopefully that'll be the most anticipated of 2017.
Yeah, perhaps, depending on what's out, I can't actually remember.
No. So, I've had a bit of trouble with my number 5, and my number 5, as of right now, is actually a tie between two very different films, The Martian and It Follows.
It Follows, supernatural horror film.
Very emphasis on the horror. If you like Halloween, you'll love It Follows, because it basically looks identical.
Wow. And
not in a bad way. It's got a very good synth track. It feels very much like that John Carpenter classic. And what is quite clever about the film is that it sets you on edge, not for when you know the monster is around, but when you think the monster might be there. Most of the time, most horror films kind of make you scared of moments where, oh no, the monster is about, where is it? But with It Follows, it says the monster can be everywhere, and you start looking for it, and every background character, it becomes an absolute terror, a heart attack for somebody just walking down the road in the distance. That causes a heart attack because you're like, what if that's the monster? What if that's it? Which, one of my few complaints with that film, it's terrible name for the monster. It just reminds me of, The Addams Family?
With the long hair. Is that it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It's funny you should mention It Follows, because I did a top 5 movie posters earlier on in the week, and it came at number 2, the poster for that. Fantastic poster, homage to original horror films, classic, cartoony type design, with the depth of the eyes in the rearview mirror. Fantastic, definitely.
And my other number 5 was The Martian, yes, a Ridley Scott masterpiece.
Ridley Scott back on top form, would you say?
It's his best film since about 2005. I and many other movie critics have been kind of asking what's happened to Ridley Scott, because the closest his films have come to good since Kingdom of Heaven was Prometheus, and that was
a dodgy film, Prometheus.
It was very dodgy. As a person who is like, as a moviegoer, I thought, well, it had problems, but it had some good scenes. As an Aliens fan, I was like, no, I cannot accept this. But
I think the problem with Prometheus was there was too many ideas he was trying to stretch into it, and because of the change in writers all the way through and the change in the story, it was supposed to be an original sci-fi film eventually to start off with, and then they changed their minds and tried to tie it in with the Alien universe, and it just didn't work.
No,
but he's a fantastic director.
Yeah,
The Martian is very good.
The Martian plays to his strengths. He is very good at making visually stunning movies, which he has always been good at, and Martian is a very visually stunning film.
It is.
And he relies on his very large and very good cast, but it kind of tricks you with its original premise, because you almost think it'd be like Jerry, with Matt Damon being on Mars and being isolated there. But the longest you have to be with him uninterrupted is about 10 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's this much larger story, and it's much more complicated story, especially in regards to the character's morals. There's no bad guy. There's no person who is like the evil businessman who is like, I think that we should just let him die and thing. No, it's everybody on there has a very sensible way to look at it.
It feels scientifically accurate. It may not be. I don't know. I've never been to space, but it feels accurate, and I think that makes the whole experience a much more immersive experience.
People are more willing to go by mood and tone than they are by like actual solid fact. If you present it in a way that makes you believe it, then
real.
It's more important than.
And the special effects were wonderful. It was very good. Very good. Very well filmed.
Yeah. So those were my number 5.
Top 5 tie.
Yes. So my number 4,
bated breath,
is a film that actually came out in 2014 in America, but for some mad reason it took about 6 months to get here, and I'm very sad about that. John Wick.
John Wick, yes. Wasn't that the first review you did for Movie Metropolis?
It was the very first movie that I did for Movie Metropolis.
Yeah, I thought so.
And it's still the best rated, so far as I'm aware. And I think technically it's probably the best movie to have come out this year.
As a technical accomplishment.
Yeah, as a technical accomplishment. It was very, very good action. It was the director's debut, but when you're watching it, you would not believe that. Because most other action films nowadays have a lot of shaky cam, and they push the camera right in the face of the actors, and you're like, you can see the grit and, you can see the grime on their faces, and it's all shaking around action. John Wick was like, nope, we're going to frame it well. It's going to be, everything's visible. You can see where everyone is in relation to everyone else, and so it gives you an exciting action scene that you can follow.
I think that's really important, especially after the mess that was Taken 3. Because it came not too long after that, and people were still reeling. I know I was, because I'm a big Taken fan.
Yeah.
And for that to come out afterwards was quite a nice surprise for everyone, because it had that similar vibe, but it was just shot in a way that was much, much better.
No. And I also, one of the things that I love about John Wick is that it kind of proved something that I've often said, and a lot of people don't agree with me on this, but I think it's true. You don't need a complicated story to be a good one.
No, I completely agree.
And with John Wick, it is so efficient with how it makes you sympathise with Keanu Reeves' character. In that it's literally just, here is a dog, it's a cute dog, the dog dies, here's the man who killed him, John Wick is going to murder all these men, all these people to get to him.
Simple story.
Yeah.
No,
and it's just instantly, the moviegoers are like oh no, the dog, how do we, how will he stop this person? How will he stop this evil person? And you don't mind the fact that John Wick kills more people than syphilis throughout the whole film, because it's just, they killed a dog. They killed his dog. Of course you would go on a rampage.
Well, you would, I would.
Yeah.
Definitely, if someone killed my dog.
Yeah.
Right. My number 4 is Marvel's biggest gamble, which was Ant-Man. Number 4 is Ant-Man for me. Paul Rudd, as we've never seen him before, stepping into the big shoes of a superhero. I liked the scale of this film. It was small, obviously, Ant-Man. But it was a small film. There wasn't the world at stake like there was in Avengers Age of Ultron. It was just this small town with small people, children, pets, everything like that. The special effects were good. Paul Rudd was fantastic. I was really impressed with his performance. And then, we've got Evangeline Lilly, who is, again, a very good actress. Michael Douglas. It was a winner from the start, and I was really worried about this film, because I thought, this isn't going to work, because I thought it's been through so many rewrites, it's been through different directors, and I was sat there and I was thinking, this is a really, really good film, and probably one of Marvel's best.
I wouldn't say it's not one of Marvel's best. I'd certainly say it's better than Avengers 2. I think Avengers 2 was actually quite poor.
I think you're going to get in trouble for that.
I think I'm
saying that on the internet.
I think I'm going to get into trouble, but I can handle the heat. I think that Ant-Man was a much more cohesive story.
It was.
Than Avengers 2.
Yes.
I think I would have preferred to see Edgar Wright's version of it, but more because I am a massive Edgar Wright fan. He's
a very good director.
Yeah, he's one of my favourites, and it looks like the kind of film where there were bits that you could tell had Edgar Wright's hand on them. And so I'm wondering what it would have been like had he actually not left, what his Ant-Man would have looked like. I think that would have been more interesting. As it was, I thought it was very competently made and very, and fun.
It was super. Yeah, it was funny as well, and that's the thing about Marvel. They definitely get the humour right. I think Marvel know how to do funny, and they choose directors who know how to work with that as well. Yeah, because it's important to have. I mean, it's ridiculous. A man who can shrink himself to the size of an ant. Yeah, so they have to make it funny. No, and they made us care for ants. I mean, who cares about ants in the real world? If you see an ant, you don't not stand on it. If you if you have to stand on it, you do. But these little ants had personalities, and I thought that was a really clever way of doing it. And the CGI was very good on those as well. There was a few scenes where the ants looked a little bit unrealistic, but, what film doesn't have a little bit of a lapse in CGI? Yeah. I think the only one I can think of is probably The Martian, to be honest, and most of that was practical apparently anyway. Yeah. So, I thought Ant-Man was a very good film, but it doesn't make your list, it doesn't make your top 5 or your honourable mentions. It don't make me honourable mentions. It don't make me dishonourable mentions, though. I would... If somebody rented it and said, "Oh, we're going to watch Ant-Man," I wouldn't say no. Yeah, that's my stance on Ant-Man. And let's just reiterate, you think it's better than Avengers 2. It is better than Avengers 2. That's going to get you some slaps, I think. Yeah. In the internet world. No, you should see my bottom 5. There's some stuff on there that will send people in a rage. Controversial. Yeah. What's your number 3, Rob? Ooh, my number 3. I thought you were going to say your number 3, but if you're not, I'll let you do it first. My number 3. In that case, is Peanuts. Ah, the Peanuts movie. Yes. I would argue this is... You loved this film, didn't you? I genuinely adored this film, and I didn't expect to, because Blue Sky... Well, I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised, because Ice Age was Blue Sky's first film, and that is a fantastic film. I would rank that as a very underrated film. I think so, yeah. And I think the sequels are pretty good, most of them. See, I would argue that ever since Ice Age, the best they've made is, mediocre. But Peanuts, it was very, very well translated. A lot of people gave it a bit of flack for not carrying over the kind of more depressing edge of the comic. But I think it captures enough of that, it's kind of mean-spirited, the original comic book, in that the central joke is that Charlie Brown is not incapable, but he's just the unluckiest kid alive, and the universe conspires against him. That's the typical Peanut story as well, isn't it, really? Yeah. Well, it's really kind of, it's 4 short vignettes in a movie, and they're split up very cleverly with Snoopy's fantasy of being a World War I pilot, which I think was done quite well. They act as very nice act breakers to split up what would otherwise be a very crowded and cluttered film. And they provide some of the action which I think they kind of went on a bit too long in places, because they were kind of going, we need a few more bits to put into the trailer. I think that happens a lot in kids' films. Yeah. No. The problem we have with kids' films is trying to maintain the attention span of a child. But, I mean, I'll tell you what I liked about the Peanuts movie was the filming style. It looked very good. And it was nice to see that they hadn't gone for the full CGI, which plagues a lot of the TV shows that we see revived. So, for example, Thunderbirds, that got a TV revival this year. Really got rid of the puppets, which we loved, didn't we? And I liked I know it was a CGI film, but the way that created it had that look of the old cartoon, but just with a modern twist.
No. And, the animation was very good, as you mentioned. It actually operates at a lower frame rate than most films. And it kind of gives that low-budget, cartoony feel that the old ones had. And it was just a funny film as well. Like, there's very little to say in regards to the humour other than that. I was wetting myself with laughter. It was... Well, it was very Looney Tunes-esque. It was not afraid to slow down and have a few wordplay jokes, which, it kind of matches Peanuts, and a lot of kids' films nowadays have kind of forgotten how to do. There's a lot of, especially with higher budget kids' films, there's kind of a temptation to put all of the money on the screen at once and make you go, look how much we've spent on this film. Yeah. Whereas Peanuts was like, no, we're going to slow it down. We're not going to worry about keeping the kids' attention, because if the film is good enough, they'll pay attention.
The thing I think is, and I'll ask you this, I didn't go to the cinema to see it. So, do you think it appeals more to fans of the cartoon, or do you think it appeals to that new generation as well?
I think it works for both, because you don't need to know. It's not tied heavily into the Peanuts lore, and it does introduce it very, very well and very gracefully. But it doesn't feel like it's treading old water. It's not an origin story. It's just very quickly getting over the characters, and it doesn't approach some of the more esoteric aspects of all the characters. Like, it doesn't go into the Great Pumpkin in too much detail. It doesn't go into Charlie Brown's baseball team. It keeps it focused on one set of stories and one set of aspects for each character. And if there are sequels, which I'm hoping that there will be, they've kind of dropped hints that they may be doing sequels based on, focused on some of the other characters, then that'll probably be where more of those personality aspects start to come through.
I think that happens generally in sequels for kids' films anyway, doesn't it? You get to see more of the characters.
Yeah. No, but overall, Peanuts film, I would say certainly best kids film of this year. And that's saying a lot.
Yes, because there's been some good kids films. And speaking of which, my number 3 is also a kids film. It's Pixar's Inside Out. I've put that at number 3. It was a tie between the Inside Out film and The Good Dinosaur. I went to see The Good Dinosaur. It's very good, very sad, but the story just wasn't there. There is no story. It's an A to B. And it looks lovely, as Pixar films do, but because it's been so many rewrites, they sacked the whole cast halfway through production, it kind of looks a little bit like a showreel for Pixar's best bits. So you've got beautiful scenery, which Pixar can do. We know that. They've done it in every film that they've done. But there's no story. The voice acting's alright. You've got Anna Paquin in there from True Blood, and X-Men, obviously. So there's some good voice acting, but for me, my number 3 is Inside Out. I thought it was a wonderful film. Brilliant story. Yes, it's very sad. Let's make children cry, which is what Pixar seem to do in every single film they release. And Inside Out makes Pixar, for me, back on form as well, because they've had a bad run. Cars 2, things like that. And I think Inside Out returns them to what they used to be. You see, my favourite Pixar film is WALL-E, and I think it has quite a few elements of that with the story. And I just thought it was lovely. What did you think of Inside Out?
Inside Out, it goes into my honourable mentions, and like Kingsman, it's not due to anything that the film does wrong. It's a very good film. For a while, this was going to be my number 5. It is, as you mentioned, a very emotionally arresting film, and Pete Docter, the writer and director, has always managed to do quite well in terms of capturing a lot of stakes to something that's quite personal and small. Like, in Avengers Age of Ultron, which is currently going to be my hitting stick for this video, that never really seemed like the stakes were that big. Like, yes, the world was ending, but I want that invested.
No.
Whereas I think this was just, one little girl is going to run away from home and she's quite sad and she doesn't quite know why. And that captured me a lot more in regards to...
I think it's because it's more relatable as well. We've all felt like that at times in our life.
Yeah. And it's just a very smart, again, another film that isn't afraid to slow it down. Yeah, they're not like, well, we have to have everything on the screen just constantly bombarding the kids with information and jokes because otherwise they don't get it because kids are dumb. It's gone, no, kids are smart. They'll know, they'll be interested in a quality film if you provide it to them. And in terms of the voice acting, how long has it taken Lewis Black to be funny in a film?
Well, I mean, the voice acting was fantastic. I thought Phyllis Smith, who played Sadness, was absolutely fantastic. And for me, she was my favourite character. It's a bit weird having a character who's always sad being your favourite, but she was just fantastic. The voice acting she did... She hasn't done many major film roles. The only one I can think of is Bad Teacher, which with Cameron Diaz.
A lot of the cast in this film have only ever done bit parts in a lot of films,
and yet when they come together, they made this fantastic film, didn't they? It was nice to see Pixar getting back to their roots, I think.
Yeah. No, I think for a while they've been on an odd stretch where Brave was okay. Then they kind of went into the Cars sequels and spin-offs. They had like Planes, Cars 2,
I think Cars 2.
Yeah. But no, I think
even Monsters University. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't.
I did not enjoy.
Wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah,
I'll say that. We'll leave it there. Is it your number 2?
I can go for my
go
number
for your number 2. This is getting big now.
Yeah, this is to show off my indie credentials alongside with It Follows. My number 2 is Dude Bro Party Massacre 3.
Dude Bro Party Massacre 3.
This film...
That's a tongue twister, that one.
It's a bit of a tongue twister. This was always going to be my number 2.
Really?
Yeah.
From the off?
Right from the get-go. The only reason it's not number 1 is that my number 1 is that much better.
I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, but this film... It's the funniest film of this year. It was, despite the fact that it's 5 Seconds Film's first feature-length project, they have been working on comedy on YouTube for years. And there have been a lot of films coming out where projects that started in 2012, 2013 and 14 have come towards being released. We had Harbinger Down was the big one. Kung Fury was very big. But I think Dude Bro Party Massacre 3 was definitely the best of them. It's just a funny film, and it's a very clever film. It's a horror parody that doesn't go for the regular suspects. It doesn't go for the jokes of, oh, hey guys, isn't it weird how the black guy dies first? Isn't it weird that the teenagers who want to have sex die first? Yeah, the killer trips over. It's not that. It's not Scream. It's not Scary Movie, which weirdly was a parody of Scream, which was a parody of... But with Dude Bro Party Massacre, it was just like, no, we're just going to tell funny jokes, and we're going to be in the frame of a slasher film. And quite cleverly, they literally frame it as a lost VHS.
Right.
So you get a lot of surreal jokes with advert breaks of these bizarre adverts that you only catch like a second of, and then it cuts back to the film, and it's about halfway through someone else's conversation. It's a very surreal comedy as well. It's got a lot of I think it's an acquired taste. It's very Python-esque, very much. The biggest comparison I would have is probably South Park.
Oh, right.
Because it piles on the blood and it piles on the the blood especially, but it's not. But that doesn't make it stupid. It's not just a slapstick, hit each other with sticks and talk about breasts. It's a very sharp and clever film.
Well written, then.
Yeah, very well written.
Excellent. And just to reiterate, Rob and I haven't seen our lists, so whatever we are saying to each other now is the first time we have said it. So genuine reactions. I'm surprised that Rob's put that at number 2. He probably won't be surprised at what I've put at number 2 because I'm wearing the t-shirt. But my number 2 for this year is Jurassic World, simply because Jurassic Park is my favourite film of all time, and it's a fantastic film. Yet rubbish characters. I'll get that out there. Terrible characters, stereotypes, everything like that. But it's fun. We've got everything you wanted in Jurassic Park. And it's a fully functioning theme park with dinosaurs in it. How can you not want to go there? Despite the fact that, spoiler alert, the dinosaurs break out of the theme park again, and there's one of the most gratuitously violent death scenes I've ever seen in a film, especially in a film that's supposed to be enjoyed by the whole family. That assistant's death scene was horrific, let's be honest. For a film there was not really anything like that in the rest of the film. Rob, Jurassic World.
I know that you've not given me trouble on this. I know some of your commenters on this film have. And I think it's because I only had kind of a mini review to say my piece with your thing. And I'm one of these people who does accentuate the negative. If I don't mention it, it's fine. If I do mention it, and I mention it that it's good, it's probably great. And so I think there's a great movie hiding in here. That had... I liked pretty much any scene involving the Indominus Rex.
Fantastic CGI as well, we must have to say. The CGI
very good
very good.
Very good CGI. And it wasn't afraid to go, well, you know what, we're going to go back to our horror movie roots. Because Jurassic Park is sort of it's almost a horror film for kids, I would argue.
I would agree.
Yeah.
There's some horrific scenes in the first Jurassic Park.
And you don't get that anymore. You don't get your Gremlins, your Jurassic Parks, your Temple of Dooms, where you get horror segments for kids. And Jurassic World wasn't afraid to go back with that, which I like. I'll agree with you in terms of the characters. Not very good.
And we're not saying the acting was terrible, because I thought the acting was good.
Well played. Very well played.
Yeah, I thought Bryce Dallas Howard was excellent, because she has not really had a huge role. I mean, she was in The Village. I mean, The Village, Shyamalan. She was in Twilight. She's had some pretty rough rides, really. Yeah. Considering she's Ron Howard's daughter, she's had a pretty rough ride, and I thought she was really good in Jurassic World. And obviously, we've got man of the moment, Chris Pratt, who wasn't even a big star when Jurassic World started filming. So for them to get him, Steven Spielberg and Colin Trevorrow, the director, got a big coup there. That was good.
They are very good at spotting talent. I do not enjoy this film that much, although I did see it twice.
Did you?
So I saw it twice at the cinema, so it isn't that bad.
I'll have to admit I saw it 6 times at the cinema.
Okay, it's not that good.
Six times.
I think that the characters were kind of flat. It was very obvious to me that I think there have been about 6 or 7 different writers, because I think the scripts had just been thrown out and rewritten, and you can tell where it is because characters' motivations change on a dime. You've got that CEO guy who, for the first bit, he's kind of moral. He's like, oh, we want to keep everybody safe. That's the most important thing. Then he's like, I want to keep the Indominus Rex alive. Only use stun weapons. And then he's like, nope, kill the thing. And he flops all the way through. And you can tell whenever the film suddenly goes, bing, oh, we've got something else.
I think... It's definitely, it had a lot of tonal shifts.
Yeah.
I think the thing to say is, a film that's been in development for, let's think, that's nearly 14 years. 14 years it was in development for. It's bound to come out with a few flaws. It's a flawed film.
Saying that...
but it's good fun. It's a good ride.
Well, Lord of the Rings was... that started filming in about the early... in the early 90s. And that was 3 films. and that was alright. So I don't know why this film can't be.
There was a lot of pressure on Jurassic Park and Jurassic World because we have 2 sequels in the middle there that weren't particularly good. The Lost World was fine; it was okay. Jurassic Park 3, it was just a B movie, really. Yeah. Let's be honest. A chase movie. There was no character development. Despite the fact we had Sam Neill and Laura Dern returning in Jurassic Park 3. So I think the thing with Jurassic World was they had to strike the balance right, and I think we can agree that it's the best Jurassic Park sequel.
Oh yeah, no, it easily beats
the other 2.
Yeah.
So yes, Jurassic World, is my number 2 because I'm wearing the T-shirt, and I must have bought so much merchandise. I need it to be number 2, but I loved it. I thought it was great fun.
Yeah. Number 1.
Number 1.
Yes. I'm now wondering if your number 1 is the same as my number 1.
It's not, because you've already mentioned my number 1.
Oh. Now I'm wondering as to what it is, because my number 1 shouldn't come as much of a surprise to anyone who has read my review of this, or indeed has ever been on the internet ever. But my number 1 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Mad Max Fury Road. What a film. What a film. It's in my honourable mentions.
It was exciting. Again, like John Wick, it had a very simple plot, but was done very, very well. It had a huge world and this huge cast of characters. It gave enough detail for the audience to fill in the blanks. We saw characters, and we would kind of go, hold on, there's a fat guy in a business suit who has cut out holes for his nipples. There is a guy who rides around on a truck all day playing a flamethrower guitar on bungee cords. Immortan Joe has a tiny, weird baby creature with a telescope in his fortress. And, any other film would be like, oh, let's spend ages explaining that. Let's explain what the free gates are. Let's explain what this thing they're spraying on their mouths is. And, Mad Max goes, you don't need to know the what's and the hows. You just need to know why. Why do these characters want to go here? The emotional investment of all the characters, and coming on to my second big point about the Mad Max, the characters. This is really Imperator Furiosa's review.
Yeah.
Movie.
Her film. It was.
This is her movie.
I mean, Charlize Theron is a fantastic actress.
Amazing actress. And it's not afraid to go... It doesn't rely on her sex appeal either.
No,
it doesn't go... Any other film would be like kind of, she's got to be dolled up and... Why don't we have her in a bikini at one point?
Sounds like a Michael Bay movie that you're thinking there, Rob.
No, this could have very well been a Michael Bay movie. But this was... it was like, well, no, because we don't need that. Charlize Theron is a very good actress.
She doesn't need to be dolled up to prove how good an actress she is.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Exactly.
The thing there.
And some people did say, it's a bit odd that, if you're one of these people who complained about how she was the main character and not Mad Max, you have never seen a Mad Max film, because he has never been the main character of any of them. The first one might as well be called Mad Goose, because he's the main character, not Max at all. But with that simple plot, Fury Road actually has a lot of very complicated themes regarding people as objects and people as property. Because Immortan Joe has his brides, he has his war boys that he often treats like property. He at one point does say, don't shoot my don't shoot this woman, she is my property. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of much deeper things within the context.
I think if you scratch under the surface,
it says a lot about. It's not subtle at all, but it's subtle for a film that has a flamethrower guitar man on a bungee cord jumping up and down.
Yeah,
and it's also just the imagination of that film as well. The film that it reminded me the most of, probably, and this might have been just because of all the sand, but the one that it reminds me of is Dune. Because it had that very much 80s appeal of why not? Why are there guys in the swamp who walk around on stilts? Well, why not? it looks cool.
It does look cool.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, you don't need this colossal backstory for the world and all its characters. All you need to know is why they're doing what they're doing, in terms of the emotional investment. So you end up kind of inventing your own backstory for the world, and whatever the audience comes up with will be better than the filmmaker, because it will be specific to them. They will always see what they want to see in that film.
For me, Mad Max Fury Road was one of those films where, when I'd watched it, I'd given it a very, very high score. It was a very high score. I think it was 8.5 out of 10 I gave it, so 4.5 stars. And it was good. I enjoyed it. For me, the plot was just too simple. Yes, you've got that scratching underneath the surface, as you say, and you find all of the deeper emotional things. For me, the plot was just a little too simple for it to make my top 5 in the end. So I just put it in the honourable mentions because it's very confidently directed. George Miller knew what he was doing. He's a very confident filmmaker. Using all of the practical effects. There was hardly any CGI in it, which was fantastic, and you could tell. You could tell it was all practical effects. But for me, it was the plot. The plot was just too simple. Basically, someone got in a lorry, turned left, and then drove back again.
I think that I think it says a lot about the fact that George Miller was confident in the characters populating the film, and also in the set pieces that he had lined up.
Fantastic set pieces.
Yeah. I think it says a lot that he was not worried about the complexity of the plot. He was like, well, we don't need this labyrinthine, twists and turns. We don't have to be Bridge of Spies. We don't have to be, name drop for one of my honourable mentions there. But we don't need to go for massive kind of big reveal. We can just, so long as you care about the characters who are there, then, as I mentioned, you kind of almost make your own plot to the backstory of the world.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what the thing is. You should have an imagination. But a lot of people don't. I'm not saying I don't have an imagination. I do. But when I'm watching a film, I want to be told about these characters. That's me. If I'm reading a book, then fair enough. I can picture it in my head. But because it's already there as moving pictures on a screen, I need to invest in the story. Not just the characters, because I did invest in Charlize Theron. She was fantastic. Tom Hardy, not so much. He's a good actor. Legend, honourable mention for me there. He was fantastic in. But yeah, Mad Max was definitely one of the best films of the year. And for me, it shows how strong a year it was for it not to make my top 5. It's just been such a strong year. So my number 1 is The Martian. That's my number 1 film. Ridley Scott, for me, Rob, you said it was his best film since Kingdom of Heaven, did you say?
I would say
For me, it's his best film since Alien.
Ooh, we can't be friends anymore.
I just think, what a film that was. Matt Damon, fantastic. You've got Jessica Chastain. I just thought it was an absolutely wonderful film. I watched it. I was sat in the cinema. I went by myself to see this film, actually. And I was just in awe of how good it was. The special effects were amazing. The story, again, simple story, but you invested in Matt Damon's character so much. I mean, that is very well written, that character. Spoiler alert, when things happen, when the pod blows up, my God, that's edge of your seat stuff, that. I mean, and there was always the possibility that he wouldn't make it. I never once knew in that film he was going to make it, because Ridley Scott is such a talented filmmaker. You don't know what's going to happen in his films, and there was such a depth to that film. It had to be my number 1, and it got, it was close to getting 5 stars for me, that film.
It's going to be a big Oscar nod one. Fun story. I wanted to see it, but I wasn't really desperately gunning for it. I was like, you know what, I might download it once like a Blu-ray becomes available or something like that. But then you said it's better than anything since Alien.
I did.
That means it's better than
That's
Blade
a bold
Runner.
statement I made.
Yeah. That means that you're saying it's better than Blade Runner.
I do think it is.
I cannot get out my house. We're no longer friends. Go away. We cannot. No, I refuse to accept it's better than Blade Runner. It's good. It's a very good film. My number 5.
It is. Tied number 5, though.
Yeah,
Didn't even make number 5 by itself for you.
No. Well, no, because it had to compete with It Follows.
It did.
Yeah.
Right. So, we'll run down our top 5 one more time for everyone listening at home. So, my number 5 is Kingsman. My number 4 is Ant-Man. We've got Inside Out at number 3. Jurassic World at number 2, obviously. And number one, and I think most people who know me would be shocked, I didn't put Jurassic World at number one, but I'm not a biased person at all. Number one is Ridley Scott's The Martian.
My number 5, leading on from The Martian, alongside it, is It Follows. At number 4, I have John Wick. At number 3, I have The Peanuts Movie. At number 2, I have Dude Bro Party Massacre 3, which I think should be number 1 for the best named film this year.
Perhaps.
And my number 1 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Mad Max Fury Road and The Martian take our top spots this year. We've got some honourable mentions, haven't we, that we discussed previously. For me, we've got Star Wars Force Awakens in there. It had to be in there. Most hyped film of God knows how long. For me, it was just not quite good enough. Again, I'll probably get killed or lynched or something for here. The plot was just too simple and too similar to A New Hope there.
Yeah, I think New Hope is probably a better... It's a slightly flabbier version of A New Hope. New Hope was a lot tighter.
I think we're going to lose some fans for this, Rob.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. Well, I think we've lost some fans by me... You saying that Blade Runner is worse than Martian, and me saying that Jurassic World isn't
I wouldn't
that
use
good.
the W word. Let's not use the W word so easily.
Yeah.
It's just a good film.
Yeah.
Good fun.
Oh, no, I didn't say it's... Yeah, oh, no, it's good. But, yeah.
This is where it gets tense, because we're sat in the same room, glaring at each other across the way. What about your honourable mention? Have you got one?
I've had a lot of honourable mentions. Kung Fury was one. That was... I think if it had a stronger ending, it might well have been on my list. Bridge of Spies, I mentioned earlier. Tom Hanks. Steven Spielberg as well.
Fantastic director.
And Coen Brothers writing.
Also, win-win there then. Really,
it really is like... I think if that doesn't win a lot of Oscars, but again, not due to the bonus of the film. Inside Out was one of my honourable mentions. Big Game. I had Crimson Peak on there.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston.
Such a good actor.
Yeah, I kind of gave it a very unfair review, and it was mostly because I was expecting a whole lot more because it's Del Toro, but...
I think it's easy when you're writing a review after you've watched a film to either get caught up in the hype or be really disappointed, and then once the dust settles, you wish you'd given it something... Like, I gave Avengers Age of Ultron a very good review, and when I look back, I would have given it less.
Yeah, no, I was actually quite positive about Avengers 2 until quite recently.
Yeah.
I also had a few from right at the start of this year. Enemy. The Jake Gyllenhaal film. And also Birdman.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, that was right at the beginning of the year,
that
wasn't it?
really was like day one of this year. And I'm counting films that came out in the UK this year.
Yeah.
Which is why I've put on John Wick and I haven't put on Creed.
Yeah.
So that's my rule anyway. So that's why if people are like kind of, where's Creed? Then that's where it is.
We know now. A few other honourable mentions from me. We've got Krampus, which was a very fun film. Did you get to see Krampus?
I have not gotten to see Krampus yet.
I went into that film thinking, this is going to be absolutely terrible. It wasn't. It was funny. It was very well written, very smart. And because I'm just surprised I haven't used Krampus before for that type of horror comedy. It works so well. The German folklore is what it is. Fantastic. It has to be in the honourable mentions for me there, as well as The Good Dinosaur, Pixar's other film this year. First time they've ever released two films in the same year. It shows, though, you can tell that The Good Dinosaur is sort of the lesser cousin, almost, of Inside Out.
It was very much a derivative of Land Before Time as well.
It was. There was a lot of similar things to Land Before Time.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned how good the graphics were in that film, because I thought the backgrounds, the scenery...
I did mean the backgrounds, I did mean the scenery.
Yeah, the scenery. I thought they were amazing. And then suddenly, you're watching this stuff that could be... it could actually be filmed.
It could
it's
be,
that good.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, you get these big toy dinosaurs plodding about.
It's almost as if you've watched your 3-year-old with a photograph of, I don't know, something really lovely, say the Yorkshire Moors or something, and then some toy dinosaurs, wind-up toy dinosaurs. I don't know why they did that. I guess it was to make it a little bit more child-friendly. But then Land Before Time was a kids' film, and that was more realistic to look at anyway.
Yeah, and that was 2D animated.
It was a very good film though. Yeah. Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation is also on there. Funny story about that film. I got soaking wet in the cinema at that film.
Didn't we all?
Oh dear. No, we don't need that. This isn't 18. The roof leaked and collapsed on me while I was watching that film. So for it to still be in my honourable mentions...
Right, that's quite a good experience.
Yeah, 4D is what I call it. 4D experience.
Yeah, no. When Tom Cruise gets wet, you get wet.
There was electrical cables dangling from the ceiling, there was rain pouring through the ceiling, and then one of the roof tiles fell off, so it was a really good experience. But it's a good film, I enjoyed it. And it's probably one of the best Mission Impossible films there were as well.
Yeah.
And finally, I have to put Furious 7 in there as well, because that is now the 5th highest grossing film of all time. Is it the 5th?
I don't generally go by grossing. Yeah, film gross.
It was good though, I enjoyed it. The story was thin, but the effects were fantastic, and that plane drop in Afghanistan, the special effects on that, and it was all done practically as well. They were real cars falling out of that plane. That was really good. So they're my honourable mentions.
So yes, I believe with nothing else to say on that end, I believe we can take a short break. We can get from the cream of the crop to the
duds.
The very bottom of the barrel.
The worst of this year.
Okay.